Have you ever been frustrated by the performance management system at your work? Have you ever been a victim of the performance management in your organisation? In this micro documentary, I'm going to help you think about personal development differently and how maybe we can reimagine it for the future of work. Hi, it's Scott MacArthur here, and welcome to The Edge of Next, the micro documentary series that features mental models, tools, ideas and stories to help you spend your time better and more effectively, and to inspire a reimagining of the future of work focused on personal growth and in activities providing a return on humanity. If you are here for the first time, make sure that you click the subscribe button, and all the links and everything that I talk about in the top will be provided in the box below. So I believe if we're going to successfully reframe performance management in our organisations in the future, and I think we can all agree that it's pretty much broken, but I think we've got to go back to first principles. And I think what we've got to do first of all is reframe education. Now, this is something that's very much in the media just now. I'm recording this in 2020 in the middle of the coronavirus pandemic, and many of us are looking at how we are educated, and many of us are looking at going online, and many universities and colleges are providing student experiences online. Now, I think this is interesting, but it also provides a bit of a threat. That threat is that much of the education, because it's been delivered online, is focused purely on the lecturer or someone who's providing the content. And the reason why I think that's a threat is it perpetuates the old model. And I think that model has to be broken. Now, forgive me if I'm being slightly trite and I'm sounding like one of these self-help gurus. There is no A in success. There is no A in success. What do I mean by that? Well, at the moment, our education system is part of a treadmill. That is perpetuated by tradition, significantly by privilege. And what do I mean by that? Well, you go to school and you get your gold stars, you get your A's, you get your well dones, you get your, you go higher, you get into a good school, then you get an A and you get all your GCSEs and your A levels, or whatever it is, whatever you are studying in your country. Then you get into a good university. Then you spend your time getting a good grade to get yourself into a good company. The problem with that is, and having worked in that space for many, many years across over 200 companies, even when you get to the top, you're never quite fulfilled. Some people are, but many, many people aren't. And I think that's because we're all victims of that old-fashioned way of thinking about education. And then what do? We put a performance management system on top of that that just perpetuates that. You have to be in the top quartile to get a bonus. You have to be average on the Gaussian distribution to get a note from your manager saying, well done, you're not getting a bonus this year, but you did really well and you were average. Now, clearly that doesn't work, and there are many books and many pieces of research in this area that suggest that it's a fool's errand to continue that, and I know many companies are trying, and that's a good thing. So what do we do about it? Some years ago, when I was in my first management job, I was a personnel manager. That shows my age. Even before it became the horrendous human resources, it was probably worse when it was called personnel. But I was working in a college, then a university in the north of Scotland, and I had an experience that I'm not particularly proud of how I dealt with it, but boy did I learn something from that experience. I had a small office. I had 1, 2, 3 staff, and I had a secretary called Liz. Now, Liz was wonderful, and hi Liz, if you're watching, she's a terrific lady, and I will never forget my times working with Liz, and I suspect she might not forget the time working with me either. But anyway, something happened. We needed some resources, and as is often the case in education, there wasn't a lot of money floating around. So we had to sort of come up with an idea on how we could get some resources. So I took the decision, which I wouldn't take now, but I took the decision to get an intern. Basically someone who comes and works for you for experience and doesn't get much pay. So we went out, and because we're in the north of Scotland, I have to say that there's not an awful lot of people up there, so you don't get many people to choose from. And because we had to choose someone who was local, we just went local with a local advert in the press. Then we got a few applications, and there was one young girl we decided we would take on. Now, I didn't interview her, Liz did. And so the first day this young lady walked into the office. Now, I can't remember her name. That's shocking. I can't remember her name, but it was a few decades ago now. But she came into the office. This is where I get quite embarrassed. The first thing I did was I noticed there was a bit of a smell. She had terrible body odour problems. And as a good personnel manager, I delegated it to Liz to tell this young girl that she had a body odour problem. So Liz raised her eyes and took the young girl into a little sub-office next to the main office that we sat in, and told her that she had a body odour problem and she couldn't work in personnel if she had a body odour problem. So Liz came out of the meeting with this young girl, and she'd sent the young girl away for a coffee. And she said, "Scott, I need to speak to you." So she took me into the office and she said, "Sit down." She was, I was the boss, but it wasn't always clear that I was the boss. And she said, "Look, I need to tell you something. Young girl has just told me a story about how she got to the college this day. She had a body odour problem, and the problem was that she had no money. And that was bad enough, but it got even worse. She was the eldest of 6, and about 6 months earlier, her parents had been killed in a car accident on the notorious A9 in Scotland. My Scottish viewers will know that road well. It's a very dangerous road that connects Edinburgh with Aberdeen. And she had been left at the very young age of 18 to look after her 5 siblings. And quite basically, she had no money. So she came to work having tried her best, but she wasn't able to be well groomed or clean. I felt terrible that I had made a judgment on this young person, and I thought, well, okay, what can we do? So Liz and I sat down and we thought, right, we can give her a uniform because we had quite snazzy tank tops and quite nice t-shirts that we could give her. We gave her a membership to the college gym, so every morning she could go in there before she came into the office. She could exercise, she could have a shower, and then she could come into the office, and we let her start later in the day. And we told her that I apologised. It was an awkward moment for me, but I apologised and said, look, I'm really sorry, I made a judgment and I shouldn't have done, and I hadn't thought about the human side of this. Typical HR anyway. And so anyway, she started to do this every day. She came into work clean every day. She was smart every day, and it was, I can feel my emotions going. She became a fantastic member of staff. Every day she grew. Every week she got better. Every month she became more and more and more an invaluable member of the team. Boy, did I learn a lesson there, that it isn't about how well qualified you are. It isn't about where you come from. Well, it is, but not to the extent as it normally is in the system based on privilege. It's how much you grow. And ever since then, when I've been striving towards a way of replacing what they call the hedonistic treadmill of coming to work, doing your performance review, beating all your colleagues to be the guy who gets the performance bonus or gets the promotion, I've been thinking about ways that we can help individuals grow. And that is the reality of the human experience. Because in Maslow's work, which I'm going to come back to in a minute, you may have heard of the thing about self-actualization, where you become, you feel that you're in control, you feel that you've achieved your goals. Well, for that young woman, her goal was as simple as getting out of bed in the morning, looking after her brothers and sisters, having a shower and coming to work and doing her work to the best of her ability. She was a top performer. Now, I just mentioned Maslow. Now, Maslow is famous for his hierarchy of needs, and just recently a chap called Scott Berg Kaufman has written a book called Transcend, in which he has re-studied and reimagined Maslow, and it turns out Maslow never even drew that triangle, in any of his work. But it's fascinating the perspective that re-evaluating Maslow's work gives for what we could do with the future of performance management. Now, during Scott's research, he was given access to Maslow's entire body of work. And to quote Sam Harris, he found a diamond in a jar full of glass. And what he found was, in one of Maslow's letters, was that Maslow suggested this, that in the healthiest societies, virtue pays. So in these societies, reward would actually be aimed at people who acted virtuously, not at people who earned the most money or who were perhaps successful in attaining a particular prestigious accomplishment. I absolutely love that idea that we could reimagine our organisations, the organisations in the future, around virtue rather than around achieving an A or achieving the top grade in a performance management system, because we all know that doesn't work. So what would that mean? Well, it would mean we'd have to think about a new way of measuring how we manage our organisations, and the way we would do that would be by measuring personal growth at the level of the individual. That would mean every organisation would have to really look at who they have, where they start from, and to measure their ability to grow from where they started from. That would really change the way organisations saw success, because for that little girl I spoke about earlier, her just getting a job and getting into the office in a smart enough way to do her job was a huge achievement, much bigger than the A-grade student with a first-class degree from Oxford and Cambridge walking into Goldman Sachs and typing a spreadsheet appropriately. The difference is enormous. And I think that would be something that would transform the workplace of the future to really make it a place where everybody would stop looking around them going, I need to catch up with him, I need to be better than her. Rather, they would be saying, okay, how can I bring myself to this workplace and do what a lot of the self-help gurus say, how can I bring the best version of myself to the work? Now that, I believe, is something that the organisation of the future should really aspire to. Thanks, Maslow. I hope you found that interesting, and if you did, please click the subscribe button and hit the little bell to get notification of my future talks. Now, if you are interested in this and you would like a reference, I have one for you here. This is a book by one of my heroes in terms of presentation skills. Now, if you've never heard of Ken Robinson, go into TED here and have a look at his talks. They are absolutely sublime and a masterclass in how to present. Now, this particular book is called The Element. Now, I don't think it's as good as his TED Talks. I don't think it's as concise as his TED Talks. But what he talks about is helping people find what they're good at and building on that. I think it's more sophisticated than perhaps the more famous Start With The Why from Simon Sinek, which is still virtuous, but I think that this book by Ken Robinson is something that's well worth you investigating.